Greetings, everyone. My name is Nicholas Blakey, and this is my service learning project for my Cybersecurity 1010 course. Today, I'm going to be going over password security. I chose this topic because I have dealt with it a variety of times over the span of my own life, so I want to present this information to others so I don't experience problems as well. So, first things first, a little bit of introduction. So, why password security? Um, as I said earlier, I've dealt with it over the span of my life. I ran into a lot of problems with, you know, entrusting my information to specific sites like streaming sites and even restaurants over the phone to really, get things done and to basically trust them with my information. And it just really hasn't worked out as a whole. Uh, there are other reasons. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with those stories a little bit later, but I chose it because I have personal experience with this topic and I want to make sure that others don't run into this. So, before we get started, a little bit of an agenda. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about is what password security is and the basics. So we all know what what a password is. We all have a good idea of what it is. But there's just some common sense things that I'm going to go over before we go further, so we stay on the same page. So the second thing is why it's important and some threats to watch out for, because there are threats and there are things. So we need to make sure that we're on top of those and we know what those are so we can address them properly. And then the last thing is the future of password security. Where are we going with this? What does password security will look like in the future? How can you protect yourself after this presentation is over? So first things first, what is a password? We need a formal definition so we stay on the same page as I said earlier. Um, so a password is a string of characters typically devised to confirm the identity of a user. They're also used to protect our sensitive information so we stay safe on the internet and stay safe with the things that we want to keep safe. So, what's the importance of a good password? The very first thing that I want to say is to don't make it easy for hackers. We call these specific hackers black hat hackers. They're hackers that want to gain access to your information to use it for illegal purposes, to trade on the dark web for money. That includes credit card information. Things of that nature to basically um, get more profit or get whatever that they want to get from you illegally. So the key to passwords is long and complex. There's plenty of sites that has specific guidelines to passwords. Some want you to have 10 to 15 characters, which is really the basis for passwords nowadays. They want to have 10 to 15 characters, they want to have an uppercase letter, and they want you to include a special symbol. So this could range like well over a lot of different types of examples of passwords. Um, like for example, if I were going to make one on the spot, it'd be like Django 456 and then exclamation mark. Something along those lines to basically fit the guidelines. Because if you don't fit the guidelines, you can't use that specific site to gain access to their service. So passwords also, they are indeed the first line of defense. If the password is breached or if the password is compromised in any sort of way, then that sensitive information is going to be exposed. So simple and common, but passwords they typically have issues with security as well. Passwords are something that has been around for a very long time, but we want to make sure that we stay on the same page with our security and we follow the guidelines that are set forth because there are common problems with security, not following what's been said or giving passwords to people who you don't trust, which I'm also going to get into a little bit later. So why passwords matter? The COVID pandemic is the first thing I want to mention is you know, the COVID pandemic has really changed the internet overall because everything has been moving online. People are working from online, and as such, there are going to be more hackers that are going to be online. They want your information, they want to gain access to your sensitive data so they can, do what they want with it. So we want to make sure that we want to stay on track of things because this pandemic hasn't really helped the situation with password security overall. Uh, so it can lead to the loss of highly valuable information. Now, this can lead to anything from, healthcare information to social security numbers to credit card information, passwords, anything of that nature. That's all highly valuable, sensitive information that we want to keep safe and secure. And data use today is also important for passwords because, big companies out here, it's not a secret anymore that they're tracking all of our data that we use. They're tracking all the sites that we click on, they're tracking all the items that we buy, and all the advertisements that we're clicking on, so they can, make more profit off of you based off of getting to know you more. Because the more that they know you, the more that they can sell you a specific type of product that they know that you want to buy. So now that that's become common knowledge, passwords are ideal now. They have access to your passwords, but we want to also protect those from hackers by following the company's rules. That goes into what I was talking about earlier about the basis of good passwords: 10 to 15 characters, uppercase, and then special symbol. So we want to make sure that those guidelines are put in place. And then a little bit of my personal stories. So just not too long ago, I was ordering something from an online store, a streaming store, just a TV streaming service, regular source. And I had my password on there. I followed their guidelines, but sometimes you're still susceptible to, an attack. And I was. A hacker got into my information and my account, and they were buying like streaming sources for separate accounts that they didn't even need. And it was basically taking up a lot of my data and a lot of my credit card information. So I had to talk with my bank to fix it. Now, it's only one of the things that has occurred to me with password security. But this can happen to others, and it has happened to others, which is why it is a big deal and why it matters and why you should be looking out for it. So, some threats and things to look out for on that topic, because there are threats and there are things. But the very first thing that I want to mention is indeed phishing. So phishing is when, a trustworthy source or a trustworthy person is disguising themselves as someone that you want to trust. An organization, or a CEO boss, which I'm going to talk about later, or something that, or someone or somebody that they are trying to gain access to your information. So this is prevalent in something called a Nigerian scam, where someone from Nigeria will email you or call you and say, hey, I'm in danger. I have this large sum of money that I want to give to you. Um, can you take it? Et cetera, et cetera. It's all a ploy as phishing to gain access to your information. So we want to make sure that we're watching out for things like that. So phishing is mainly dealing with passwords as well. Phishing people that fish, they want to gain access to your information, and the only way to do that is the first line of defense, which is the passwords. But it can also be the usernames, because passwords and usernames, they go hand in hand. Username is what makes up the account, and the password is the key to that account. So if they gain access to your usernames or your passwords, then you're going to be susceptible to danger. So also credit card information as well is what some people that fish want to get access to. So things like bank information, everything like that. People will disguise themselves as be like, hey, this is a family. I'm portraying myself as a family member. Can I give you this money? Can I get your information so I can pay my car bill, et cetera, et cetera? It could be anything. So when you just need to be aware of things that sound fishy, you know, no pun intended, or something that just doesn't seem right over the internet, over email, text, phone calls, anything like that. So it can occur with several things as stated. So the types of phishing that you may see, they vary in length and variety. The first thing is typically it usually deals with malware, which is viruses, bots, machines that attack your computer systems, your phones, your data, anything like that. Specifically, this was something with things like with worms that attack systems like very, very in subtle ways, and they pry into your information to get the things that they need or a hacker needs. So this type of phishing is also dealing with fake websites. Case in point with something you see something like a lottery site where you get a pop up and you'll see something like, hey, you just won the lottery for such and such amount of money. You click on it, you enter your information, and you find out that all of your bank account money has been just swiped away from you in an instant. So this kind of thing can happen, and it has happened, as stated. So email phishing is a big thing as well. As I was talking about Nigerian scams, those typically happen with emails. Emails are saying, hey, try this product out, or hey, you won this, or hey, you got this prize, etc., etc. Um, that can happen, or it can be something even more elaborate, like CEO manipulation. You're working at a high-end company. Your boss wants to log into your account, or they need your password to gain access to some things that you've been working on. And you give them the password, you give them what they need because you think they're your boss. And when they get that information, and your password, all of your things are gone. So that's something to also look out for. And then lastly, mobile and voice phishing, spam calls, spam texts, same thing. You've won this, you've got this. I have this amount of money for you. You need to pay your car note. We've all got things like that. Um, those are things to watch out for as well, because that is indeed phishing. They're trying to gain your trust so they can get information out of you. Don't fall for it. So stay alert. All right, so next thing is a little bit on the obvious side, but I feel it needs to be stated because we sometimes forget about obvious things. Things can get away from us. So the obvious thing is do not share your password with anyone. Passwords are supposed to be secret. If passwords are not secret, then they're not really passwords anymore. So if you do share your password with somebody that you don't know, somebody that you don't trust, like a stranger or something, then obviously, it can be extreme amounts of danger because you don't know who people are that you don't trust. Um, so you want to be careful with that and get comfortable with that person if you do share passwords. So only share password if it's like a close family member or a partner or somebody that you trust like heavily, because if not, then you could be at risk of having your password or any sort of information that you have provoked. So also with that, it is indeed a two-way street. Respect others and their passwords as well. So since trust goes both ways, you may get something, or you may get some information that you want to that you necessarily didn't ask for. Somebody may have told you their password, or you may have told someone your password that you trust, and they may have trust you. Uh, it's a two-way street. So respect their passwords as they would respect yours. Don't tell anybody their password. Don't be like, hey, did you know that this, that, and that? We want to be, it won't be trusting of the people that trust us. So respect others with passwords. So the next thing is two-factor and multi-authentication. Now, this is something that has recently come up over the years of the internet, and it is extremely valuable. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit of that as well. So two-factor is when you have to add another piece of personal information to your password. Now, this can range from a variety of things. A lot of sites use this, and it can vary with the type of factor authentication that they may want to have. So they may give you a choice. They may ask you to add in your phone number in addition to your password, or they may say add in your email address, or confide this captcha code so they make sure you're not a bot, or text your phone or something like that. It's something text with like code or something. It's authentication to make sure that you're staying safe and that they protect you with the authentication that they use. So some stats that I've included here as well. 57% of businesses use multi-factor authentication, and that was this year. Um, it's important to have that. 57%, that is a lot. Multi-factor is even more than just two-factor. They might request, a password. And they might say, okay, include your phone number and also include an email address, a separate email address for your account. So that's multi-factor. It's something that's been on the rise as of recently. And then I've also included another source in 2019. It was reported that account compromise can be deflected by 99.9% just by using two-factor and multi-authentication. So I know some sites out here, they don't require you to use multi-factor authentication. They're saying, oh, remind me later. Don't click those buttons. Make sure that you're clicking those and you're confiding in the things that are being asked of you, because as stated, 99.9%, that's almost guaranteed that it helps prevent account compromise. So the other thing, useful thing to include is biometrics. So biometrics are, fingerprints. We know what biometrics are. They grant you access to users based on physical characteristics. Now these can these can range from fingerprint and then retinal scanning, which is basically scanning your eyes, or things of that nature to make sure that you're even more safe than you already are. So it can be pertain to you as a physical characteristic. So the thing with this is also to use only with a device you regularly operate. You don't want to have it with something that you don't trust or that you rarely use, that's spread about through family members, things of that nature. You want it to be your own device. The other thing that is with that, that is like an item, is tokens. Now, tokens are they're a little bit different than biometrics. They're basically physical objects used to prove identity. Now, these can range from like USBs to something like chips on cards. We have chips on cards now. We use those to pay pay things with with that chip. These are tokens that can be used to gain access to buildings or to sign in automatically. So the flaw with tokens, however, is that they're easy to lose. You can lose them very, very easily. They can be misplaced, and if something is misplaced, then that means they basically have access to your information. So you want to make sure that that information is safe. But the benefit is that no one wants to put in their password multiple times. So it's kind of a comfort level thing. If you have the password in your hands, you don't have to sign it all the time. But maybe that makes people feel more secure. I feel secure putting in my password every single time just to make sure that I'm staying on track with what I want to be, what I want to have. So okay, so now let's get into some types of password attacks. So I'm not going to cover all of them because there are a lot. Um, just a couple of basic ones that I think you should look out for. And the first one is dictionary attacks. So this is when a hacker will try and break into an account by using every single word in the dictionary. Now we have a substantial amount of words in the dictionary that we use. It's also spread about through multiple languages. There's well over like a dozen languages that we use in the world today. So we can kind of decipher that the major flaw with this is that it's going to take a very substantial amount of time to figure out that password. So dictionary attacks are mainly used for common ones. Common phrases like ice cream, very, very simple ones that nobody should be using anyway, because you should be using, the basic password formula, which is 10 to 15 characters, uppercase, and then, special symbol. So it's not effective against ones of varied lengths and symbols. But on the flip side of that, now we have brute force attacks. Now, brute force is a little bit different because it tries random character generators until that password is guessed or every combination has been put in. Now, separate from dictionary, this one will eventually get your password correct. Now, it may take a very long time to get your password correct, but eventually it will get it. So you want to make sure that you watch out for these because, the key is to combat with lengthy passwords. 10 to 15 characters. Keep saying it over and over again because that is the basis for that. Don't have passwords that are five characters long or something extra common, like ice cream or like pancakes, because it will just make a hacker have a much easier job to do, get into your account and your sensitive information. So, how do you know if you've been compromised? There are several ways that you can know that. So a helpful site that I use all the time is Have I Been Pwned? This is a very, very simple site where as soon as you go to the site, all you have to do is put in your password, and it will gauge how fitting it is, um, along like normal guidelines for a password. So if it's extra short, it will say your password is way too short. If it's too long, it won't say anything because a good password is a very long password. So put in your email, password, username, your separate information that you want to include, and it will track breaches, and then it will verify them and present the data based on those breaches to you, only solely based on your password. So you can see all the specific data breaches over time that has included your account information, and you can check that. So it's a very, very simple site. I highly recommend. And I also recommend Breach Alarm. Now, this is, it basically does the same thing, but it checks if your password has been compromised. Um, so try both as soon as you can because these are essential to making sure that your account is safe. And if you do find out that your password has been used or has been in a data breach, don't panic. You know, Make sure that you vary your passwords. You don't use the same one for everything. You keep them varied lengths, separate characters, separate symbols, so you stay safe on the internet. So, in conclusion, you know, wrapping things up here, make it as hard for hackers to get your information as possible. Don't make it easy. If it's easy for a hacker to get into your information and get into your account, I promise you it is going to be that much more dangerous for you to stay safe on the internet. And the second thing is be aware of threats. I've provided you with a few threats that people use to gain access to passwords, but there are many, many more. So if you want to research those and look a little bit more depth into those threats and those things that you should be watching out for, then I say I would do that. Just so you stay protected, because uh, playing with money is basically what you're doing by not looking things up and knowing what these threats are. Because if your account gets compromised, then that basically means that a hacker will most certainly try and get into your money and your account. So be safe with the things that you want and look up some things. And then the last thing is to protect yourself. As I said earlier about, don't tell anybody your password, only tell people that you trust. Not believing in phishing, staying alert. Those are all things that you have to watch out for when dealing with password security and passwords themselves, so you stay safe and you stay intact on the internet with your information. So that's everything for this presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.